Hi, this brief video tutorial is about the unit activities and how to complete them successfully. So in any given day that we have an assigned reading, you'll have your reading quiz, you'll do the reading, and you'll also complete anywhere from 0 to 1 activity. Sometimes 2 if we have a particularly short week, but on weeks where we have readings assigned on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you'll complete anywhere from 0 to 1 activities, depending upon by the end of the week if you want to have completed 3 for an A, 2 for a B, or 1 for a C. So I picked September 30th here as an example because it has basically the range of the types of activities you can choose from for that day to complete your unit activity. So I'm going to show you how to use Hypothesis, which is the first possibility for September 30th. You can also write a discussion post, and to do that, you'd be able to link right here directly to the September 30th reading, and then it explains to you what your choices are even with there. Sometimes you'll just have one choice of a topic about what you can post on for the 30th, or sometimes you'll have, as this example shows, a series of choices that you can focus on. So when you write your post, you don't have to write about all of these options. You just pick one and write one 250-word post on that topic, on that prompt. The other possibility is to lead discussion on a passage or about the reading in some capacity. And so you'll be joining the optional Zoom and be prepared to give a brief 5-minute presentation, kind of leading discussion about a particular topic that interested you from the reading. Now, if we have a class period where we simply have so many volunteers, we can't get through them all, you'll see the instructions here. And in that case, those students, let's say we didn't get to every student in that particular class period during our optional Zoom session, then what we would do is you would post what your presentation would have been to the Blackboard message board for that class period. Or you could decide, I don't want to do that, I'll just go ahead and do the annotation or a discussion board post on using one of the prompts. So that would be your choice. You have until the end of the day to complete those activities. Remember, you can join the optional Zoom whether or not you plan to do the unit activity that's a part of the optional Zoom. So you don't have to do the unit activity in order to join the optional Zoom. You can just tune in if you'd like to discuss with us the reading and not necessarily have to do a presentation. So if you're going to do the annotation, you click on that. I'm going to click on, in the syllabus and rubrics, I've set up a tutorial where this video is located. And in that, I have this practice hypothesis, as well as a helpful link for annotation suggestions for students. Now, I have already gone into this particular practice text, which is actually a novel I'm assigning in a different class, but I thought I'd use it for this class. It's American literature, give you a sense to what the other class is. And you'll notice here, I just to kind of keep in my mind the idea, I have to complete 5 annotations. And these 5 annotations are basically showing what are the minimum expectations that I have for these 5 annotations. That is, you have some information. Now, personally, if I was writing this, I'd want to go and revise it and edit it and not just say information about the author, but provide the reader with some additional information. So if you see that someone like me has posted this, you could go in and, as one of your annotations, add some additional information. I looked at this link, and one thing that I found really fascinating about the author's life, or about what her work was the following. So these can be brief, fairly brief pieces of information. They can be your interpretation of a particular part or passage from the text, or they can, as these examples do, link out to what other people are saying about a particular text. So then this first example, what I did was I highlighted the author's name, and then I linked to the author's website. In the second example, I've given there's a scholarly article that exists, but I did not include the link there. So what I need to do is spell it right. Is retrieve that article. Here it is. And go back and edit my annotation. Here, actually, what I'll do is copy that website because that will be easier. Now, if I want to go back and edit, and you'll notice that I'm automatically logged in, I can click on the little pencil here, paste that. And the key thing here is that in order for you to save your annotations, you have to click on this gray box here that will save it to our class. If you don't do that and you exit out of this page, you'll have lost all your annotations, okay? So that's key there, that you add in that final step of basically saving your annotations, okay? You can always go back and edit or reply to your own or someone else's annotation. The third example that I have here, I've highlighted one of the characters' names, and I linked to a review that discusses this particular character. Again, I would say, you know, that a stronger annotation, keeping in mind that this fulfills the minimum requirements, but a stronger annotation, a stronger way of annotating a text for your and your readers to make it most helpful would be to include some information. What is the review saying about that particular character? And then this next part is a review. I've highlighted the first part of the passage here, which is time being, and then I point to another review that talks about the various meanings. Again, if I could say, oh, there's two key meanings, one being this and one being this, that would be stronger. But in terms of minimum requirements of what is a time being, this is something that people might not be familiar with who are looking at this text. And so this is a resource that defines it. So for my last annotation, I want to show you, I actually want to highlight this entire passage, and I'm annotating. So I click the, internet connection's a little bit slow here. Let's try this again. Click annotate. I didn't quite get it all, so I'm not going to say that. I'm going to try it again. And go back and delete that annotation if it still shows there. And this opening passage is interpreted in the following blog post. And I found this blog post that talked about basically the first couple paragraphs of the novel. So I'll add that link there, and here I'll put introduction. Sometimes it can be helpful just to add a couple like keywords so that if people are sort of glancing through the annotations, they have a sense of what you've been talking about. Close reading. Now remember, I have to click on this gray box. If I don't, I will have lost this annotation. And so I'm scrolling through. So I've got my 1, 2, 3. Oh, we will call this one 4. And then this one 5. Now I have my 5 annotations. Now I can leave the application. Okay, so these are the minimum requirements of what I would expect for 5 annotations of a particular text. In this case, I've focused my annotations on using resources linking to material outside of the text. I could also select a passage and provide my own sort of questions and gloss of the information. And the link in Blackboard that discusses, let's go back to the unit activities tutorial. These annotation tips for students provides you with some additional examples to what kinds of annotations you can add that will be most helpful, not only for your own knowledge and interpretation of the text, but for others who will be looking at our annotations. Of course, if you have any questions about using Hypothesis or about any of the other options for completing unit activities, please don't hesitate to send me a Blackboard message or to join into one of our optional Zooms and we can talk about it further. Have a great rest of your day.